Welcome to my channel Psych Center. In the previous video, we studied what is psychology as a natural science, and psychology as a social science. Quick questions from the previous section. When and where was the first laboratory in psychology established? What is the difference between the mind and the brain? What does psychologists study? What are the various types of behaviors? Our next section is understanding mind and behavior. We will also understand the relationship between mind and behavior. Psychology was once defined as a science of the mind. For many decades, the mind remained a taboo in psychology. Why? Because it could not be defined in concrete behavioral terms, or its location could not be indicated. We know that the mind does not have a location. If the term mind has returned to psychology, it is because of the contributions of neuroscientists like Sperry and physicists like Penrose. There are scientists in various disciplines, including psychology, who think that a unified theory of the mind is a possibility. However, we do not have such theory till now. What is mind? Is it the same as brain? We have dealt with these questions earlier. Though mind and brain are interrelated, they are separate entities. This can be understood with the help of several interesting cases. These cases have been documented in your textbook. Some patients whose occipital lobes, which are responsible for vision, were surgically removed. These patients were found to be responding correctly to location and configuration of visual cues. Since their occipital lobes, that is a part of the brain, is removed, it can be concluded that to carry out these mental processes now. They may not be able to see now. However, the research showed the different outcome. They were able to locate the things and they were able to receive visual cues. This indicates that the mind and the mental processes were operating properly, even in the absence of the parts of the brain responsible for it. Similarly, an amateur athlete lost his arm in a motorcycle accident but continued to feel an arm and also continued to feel its movements. Another case, a young man who suffered brain injury in an accident after he returned home from the hospital claimed that his parents had been replaced by their duplicates. They were imposters. In each of these cases, the person had suffered from damage of some part of the brain, but his mind had remained intact. It was earlier believed by scientists that there is no relationship between the mind and the body, and that they were parallel to each other. The mind and the body were considered unrelated to each other. Mind is a separate entity and body is a separate entity. They do not influence each other. This was the earlier assumption. Recent studies in affective neuroscience, affective is something related to emotions. Recent studies in affective neuroscience have clearly shown that there is a relationship between mind and behavior. These case studies also denote the same assumption. It has been shown that using positive visualization techniques and feeling positive emotions, one can bring about significant changes in bodily processes. Now, what is positive visualization techniques? Positive visualization techniques refers to intentionally visualizing whatever you are aspiring to become, whatever feelings you have, basically your aspirations. So positive emotions are able to make significant changes in body. Dean Ornish, a researcher around 1970s and 1990s, has shown this in a number of studies with his patients. Now we will look at his studies. A person with blocked arteries was made to visualize that blood was flowing through her or his blocked arteries. So there was a person whose arteries were blocked. He was made to visualize that blood was still flowing through his blood vessels, arteries. After he practiced this over a period of time, he experienced significant relief from the symptoms and the degree of blockage became significantly less. That is, apart from the emotional impact, there were physiological impacts as well. Use of mental imagery. Mental imagery is images generated by a person in her or his mind. These mental imageries have been used to cure various kinds of phobias. What are phobias? Phobias are irrational fears of objects and situations. These are irrational, like if you see a dog, a response would be you would be fearful, you would be afraid of the dog. But this response is guided, is up to a limit, is up to an extent. But the person who suffers from phobia or who has phobia would be very much anxious after seeing a dog. He would run away, he would run from that place, and probably there are people who faint at the sight of a dog. So these fears are irrational. A new discipline called psychoneuroimmunology. Psycho is something related to psychology. Neuro is something related to brains, neurons. Immunology, we are aware of. Immunology is the study of immune system. Psychoneuroimmunology has emerged, which emphasizes the role played by the mind in strengthening the immune system. So, mind also has a role in strengthening the immune system. Now, there are popular notions about the discipline of psychology. These notions can be true or may not be true as well. We will try to understand the difference between common sense, our commonsensical understanding, and psychology. In everyday life, we try to comprehend the behavior of others and also give the explanation why people behave in certain ways. However, these explanations come from our commonsensical understanding, which is based on hindsight, and this explanation is not of much relevance. There is a very simple example given here. If a friend you love goes away to a distant place, what will happen to your attraction for her or him? There are two things. Out of sight is out of mind. The second one is distance makes the heart grow fonder. However, which saying is applicable to you will depend on what happens in your life after your friend leaves. If you are able to find a good friend after your friend leaves, if you are able to find a new good friend after your friend leaves, the saying which you would rely on would be out of sight is out of mind. However, if you continue to feel the same amount of emotions for the person who has left, you will realize that distance makes the heart grow fonder. In both these explanations, the explanation is following the occurrence of behavior. For example, the explanation you are adopting is coming after the behavior. The behavior here is whether you have found a new friend or not. So, common sense is based on hindsight. Psychology as a science looks for patterns of behavior which can be predicted and not explained after the behavior occurs. So, psychology will be able to predict the behavior before the actual behavior has occurred. Scientific knowledge generated by psychology often runs against common sense. We are going to look at another study which is performed by Dweck in 1975. This study would prove that psychology runs against common sense. This is not always true, but it happens at times. So what did Dweck did? She was concerned about children who gave up too easily when faced with a difficult problem or failure. What does common sense tells? Common sense tells is to give them easy problems in order to increase their success rate so that their confidence goes up. Then later give them a difficult problem and they will be able to solve that problem because they have already gained certain amount of confidence which would be helpful in dealing with that problem. Dweck tested this hypothesis. She took two groups of students. We know what is hypothesis. We have learnt it in the previous video. She took two groups of students who were trained for 25 days in solving maths problems. The first group was given easy problems, which they were able to solve very easily, and the second group was given a mix of easy and difficult problems. In the case of difficult problems, students failed several times. Whenever this happened, Dweck told them that their failure was because they had not tried enough and persuaded them not to give up. This was the training period. When they were given easy problems, one group was given easy problems and the second group was given a mix of easy and difficult problems. After the training period, a new set of math problems were given to the two groups. Now the study's result went against common belief. Those who had always succeeded because they were given easy problems gave up much faster when they faced failure than those who had experience of both success and failure. Basically, it is saying that the group 2, which was given a mix of problems, both easy and difficult, were able to solve the problems much faster. They did not give up easily because they had experienced both success and failure in their training period, and hence they were taught to attribute failure to their lack of effort. There are many such common sense notions which may or may not be true. It was believed in some cultures that men are more intelligent than women and women cause more accident. However, empirical studies have shown that both of these are untrue. That is, the rate of accidents caused by women and men, there is no significant difference. There is no difference between the rates of accident caused by them. Psychologists are often treated as astrologers, tantrics and palm readers. However, they are very different from them because they systematically examine propositions. Propositions are the hypotheses based on data to develop principles about human behavior and other psychological phenomena. In the next video, we will study the evolution of psychology. We will trace the history of psychology.